Hey there, gamers. Welcome to my personal hell. I thought I'd do this just for a lot of fun, for laughs, for japes. Not for hate, but for japes. Which is to say that I'm a very obsessive person when it comes down to it. I kind of get stuck on like one thing and then I'll only think about or do that one thing for just sort of a week or like a month. One thing that I've become obsessed with kind of lately is Kickstarter, which is a lot of fun, but then it also has really caused me a lot of damage to the financial department because there's a lot of actually like good Kickstarters out there. I also have a great time though because there's so many insanely horrible Kickstarters all of the time. And I don't think anybody's really talking about the insane amount of absolutely horrible book Kickstarters. I would say that with a book Kickstarter, it's a little bit different from a game one because a game one is usually like, it can sometimes be just like one insane man and his lifelong goal to make like an epic dragon adventure game or whatever. But a lot of the time, books are very much passion projects and games are usually like at least a studio. So it is kind of a different wheelhouse, and I do judge it a little bit differently. A game that's trying to just extort people for money or is just clearly very badly designed is fun and it's easier to make fun of. A book one, it is like somebody just being a little bit deluded about publishing and books and everything like that. So I definitely don't want to come off as mean to the specific person. However, and this is my caveat that lets me get away with enjoying making fun of these sort of book Kickstarters, is that they are on the internet publicly asking for like thousands of dollars. So to me, that sort of means that it's okay for me to go and comment on them and make fun of them a little bit with my friends. Because yeah, they're coming out here and they definitely just don't have any idea how Kickstarter works, and they definitely don't have any idea about how to pitch a book, which are, like, sometimes you do see something that's just like an insane person having an insane day, and I understand, I'm an insane person, I just don't usually ask for thousands of dollars on the internet. But a lot more of them are just people who don't know how to pitch a book at all. Yeah, so normally when you go onto Kickstarter, you get it sorted by the magic formula, which is slightly catered to you, slightly just based on things that are almost always fully funded and things that are basically like, I don't know, pretty good. I will tell you that I'm not interested in the things that usually are on the top here, but everybody has personal preferences, and God, they're doing well. These things have thousands of dollars. The real fun goes when you go to the newest section, because most things here are not completely funded at all. And just having a quick, like, browse through them, you definitely get an idea of the main trends that you see on Kickstarter books. The first big one is children's books. I guess I do understand it a little bit, but there are an insane amount of children's books trying to be funded on this Kickstarter platform. And they're basically just like picture books trying to tell like a adventuring story about, friendship or whatever. You know what children's books are like. However, a lot of people don't consider this, and a lot of people have definitely never really tried or looked up or studied children's literature. And it's a lot harder than people seem to think to write like a picture book or a children's book. Like a good picture book, I would say, is way more work than just like pumping out a mediocre YA book. And I say this as somebody who usually reads and writes around the YA area. Children's books are a lot of work, and a lot of people on Kickstarter are pretty sure that they've nailed it. Now I'm going to actually go to a bunch of my 8 million tabs up here, and we're going to look at some really fun ones up here. And I love this snake, and I hate this font, so let's just look at one of these in depth real quick. Help me publish book 2 of my fantasy series, Heroes of Mid-Aria. I would say that, like, this is a, title of the book, this is a good little tagline for the book. Most budgets on here are about 10,000. I'll probably comment on that, but I do often wonder if that's not fully the correct price that you should be charging for self-publishing a book. Here we have a cover of, I don't know if this is book 1 or book 2, and there's a snake, and that snake's pretty great. So this is all kind of like an okay setup. The problem that most Kickstarter books run into, and this one is saved for the example of it, is the actual description of the book. So when you're doing a Kickstarter project, I'm talking about like an expert on this. I just spend a lot of time browsing through Kickstarter. So when you're actually setting up a project, you need to maybe look at some successful projects for context, and you maybe need to think about why somebody should support your book, because obviously you've written a book and it's like absolutely amazing and you're killing it out there with your great writing, but how do you present that to other people? And this comes down to the idea of selling books, pitching books, things that, you know, you have to do in publishing traditionally. You still have to do that when you're self-publishing. You especially have to do it when you're crowdfunding. And most people on Kickstarter seem to have absolutely no concept. So I see this book, and honestly, it has the word Heaven's Demons on it. I'm obsessed with angels. I'm obsessed with demons. I think snakes are cool. I don't like this cover art, but it's something. So I would be somebody who would be actually drawn in, just kind of curious, even though I haven't read book one. But hey, you know, let's see what it's about. Let's hear a pitch. Okay, one paragraph. When I was 15, struggling as a sophomore in high school, I started writing my very first book. Me too. I didn't know it then, but that initial 300-page story would spiral into a slew of different wild adventures. And almost 5 years later, I've created nearly 2,000 pages of content for my fantasy series. Now, though, the challenge is getting my work published and seen, which can be quite the expensive task. All donated money will go towards publishing and printing expenses of the next book in my series, Angels of Hell. This is not the worst that I've ever seen, but this is, I hope, a really good illustrated failings of books on Kickstarter. Generally speaking, almost everybody has one of these. And generally speaking, it never matters. If you want to put an about the author section, you should always put that after the pitch of what the story is. This is turning into an advice thing, but I don't know. I just want to offer help sometimes. So, what is this book series about? I am not going to give you any money because I don't know what this book series is. I would like a short pitch, basically. Like, Angels of Hell is a series about angels and they're hanging out in hell, but some problems happen, and, you know, say that. All I know is that you've definitely written a lot since you were 15. In the last 4 years, I'm trying not to look at this little private, it's not private, it's completely public, but this little info box, but I've been 19, I know. So, what is this book series? This is book 2 of the series. What is book 1? And so I was curious, and I was like, okay, has this successfully been done? No, this is their first ever project. So how did you get book 1 published then? So this person is actually offering pretty normal, like, hey, you know, here's the book level, get some art, get a custom t-shirt, limited edition book. Oh, wait a second. A tragic tale of and how. This is the most description that we've seen of the actual plot of the book, and it is in the $100 tier. Hey, there's a secret about the middle realm. I mean, that's pretty persuasive. I don't know anything about the book series, but I would love to know a secret for $1,000 US. Okay. Escape from Mystic Moor, a fantasy about a lost prince sent to Earth as an infant from another dimension to escape a violent usurpation of the throne. This one here has an actual plot summary, which I really like. I dreamt of writing this book since I was 15 years old. I had a vision in my imagination of a young prince sent to Earth from a different dimension to escape a treacherous usurpation of his father's throne, and his journey to return and reclaim his rightful position as king. Now, 10 years later, I've accomplished frustratingly little when it comes to writing progress. I just haven't been able to find the time to really buckle down and focus on it. I would like to take a year off of working full-time to focus on writing. I need backing to be able to dedicate most of my time to finally writing this novel and achieving my dreams. This is another trend that you see on Kickstarter all of the time. And that is the fact that a lot of people aren't actually asking for backing to, publish the book. They're asking for money to write the book. So $50,000 would be great, and I wish I had that. But the ultimate matter is that no one's going to pay you to take a year off of work to write a book if you've never written a book before, and there's no reason to think that this was going to be at all any bit good. This one here is one of the examples of absolute insanity. I'm saying insanity, and I don't know, I feel bad about saying that, but then I'm a self-professed absolutely insane, completely bonkers, whatever kind of person. So I understand. BC Battle Space Commander by Heaven's Decree, Awareness Begets Change, BC, sci-fi advocacy platform for lifeform rights, the pursuit of democracy, and the fight against climate change. With more than 2 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy, an individual star can still refract prism spectrum and be a force multiplier for the positive, illuminating the path so that others may release their potential within. Shine on. I'm not going to actually say, there's not much to say about this one besides just the beautiful graphics. I love the little graphics. And I'm not going to watch any of these. Is this a video on how to maximize revenue streams? Like is he going to teach me how to succeed in business? Or am I learning about climate? Is this a book? Okay, it is represented through positive messaging platforms, the Galactic Post, Future Fantastic, and globalportal.earth, summarized through the sci-fi series Battle Space Commander, hosted on Amazon ebook and paperback. So, Thy Kingdom Come, currently released on Amazon, a global call to action. Environmental advocacy, lifeform rights, and the pursuit of global democracy. Is he teaching me how to do the stock market? Is it a book? These are websites. Well, there's the exact time. Is this a book? Thy Kingdom Come. Yes, Thy Kingdom Come is a book. Thy Kingdom Come, currently released on Amazon. Yes. Battle Space Commander. Great. The Ode to the Code of Conduct. We, the eco-marshals, commit to living every moment of life to its utmost potential, to engage each femtosecond of existence with rapture and strive to put the benefit of others before self. Quotation mark. Followed by rapturous applause. Is that like a stage note? Do I just have to start? Yeah! Sending positive acoustic vibes reverberating throughout the cosmic skies. I've never seen a book description like that before. What's next? So this one here caught my eye. 777, Every Shadow Has Its Day, a mystical, action-packed horror novel filled with gore and sweet moments. This is a dark book with twinkling lights of love. Sounds lovely. Let's see. First, let me tell you the basics. Good start. This novel is an action-packed mystical horror novel about what would happen when an alien shadow trapped in an ancient pot for centuries is released. And it goes out for the blood of the lineage that entrapped it all those years ago. This is a really simple pitch. It obviously is not a perfect pitch because it doesn't really tell us anything about the setting. Also doesn't introduce any main characters, but it introduces the central conflict. So, points. I have 240 pages written and partially edited as of this date. I have to keep commenting on these things. 240 pages. Whenever somebody says a page count, you cannot trust what that page count is unless they actually are telling you, because page count is incredibly subjective. Page count is basically meaningless. What you need is word count. Because page count can be in Microsoft Word, for example, where if it's on its default settings, it's going to be like a much lower number than it actually is. If it's in something that's formatted properly to like print book size, then that's how you get an accurate representation, obviously. But even that, there's a lot of differing between, like, gutter size can change the book page count by a lot. obviously font, word size, like there's so many factors that page count is entirely meaningless, and I can't even comment on it. I really think that if you're on Kickstarter, you need to have an actual finished project. If you just say, like, I'm currently writing it, there's still potential for you to not finish writing it or to get caught up in ending it. Beyond the fact that if you're still currently writing it when you're on Kickstarter, it means that you haven't been editing it at all or drafting it. Like, some people edit and draft as they go a little bit, but like the best editing is always going to be after you finish it and you read the whole thing over again and start to actually like think about it as a complete piece. If you just have the ending left to go, like you still got most of it, but there's probably a lot of editing that has to be done. I'm considering putting the first chapters up on here. I think that's a great idea. A writing excerpt is something everybody is always missing from their Kickstarters, and writing is, not to sound bold, but a book is writing. So actually seeing it. So this is something that, this is a style that a lot of people use when writing about their amazing projects, which is sort of going into hyperbole and saying a bunch of nonsense that doesn't really mean anything when you think about it. Within the pages of this story, you will find meaning, love for what it is, and most importantly, satisfaction. A book that makes you feel intelligent while reading it. I am not kidding when I say this will give you the action you are looking for. But it's not just that, because it is scary and frightening, filled with moments of, holy shit, did that just happen? I could describe more about the actual story contents, but I really don't want to spoil the contents. It is a thrill ride. Raise suspicion on the 2 semicolons. I hate semicolons so much that I'm not going to even speak to whether or not they're accurate. If you use a semicolon that much, you obviously are very convinced that you're using it correctly and you want to show off. The semicolon is the worst piece of grammar thing, and we really should get the interrobang back instead. So, bold claim, and you will never live up to this claim, so don't make a claim like that, is basically in it. Similarly, like, people are always really like, I don't want to spoil what goes on in my book. But the thing is that if I'm going to give you money, if I'm going to give you $22,000, I would like to know what's in the book. You don't have to tell me the ending, but have you ever looked at a book? A lot of Kickstarter people have not actually looked at a book recently. On the back, it has a little summary that gives you a really good idea of what's in the book. And that doesn't spoil anything. In fact, that makes people want to read the book. I think that if you want to give an about the author, that's fair enough. But usually, just like when you're actually pitching, the about the author section isn't really important unless you have any credits that are relevant to your book or writing. If it's a book about the military and you were in the military, you should mention that. If it's a book about, your epic fantasy story, I don't really care that you like pizza. This is a lovely little thing that you get a lot of as well. This just looks like a YouTube thumbnail from like business sections. And I love this one. I love the bravado of people on Kickstarter with their books and their ideas. I love their confidence because they're just so dumb about what people are actually going to pay you $68,000 for. Here's another lovely flavor of book Kickstarters. This one has a suspicious amount of money, but maybe he just has some friends. This is just a nice looking man, just a nice, lovely little lad. He's a bit old for a lad, dad. And this is another approach you see of just, can my book make it all the way to publish my book independently? I mean, can it? It's, again, something where they're centering the you more than your actual project. And unless you're famous, you don't matter, your project matters. Here's another lovely one. Venona, a light novel. It's 2008, and from the ashes of Detroit's impoverished suburbs rose a mediocre emo band called Venona. This is their story. I like this pitch. It has like a little art thing that is improperly cropped. You gotta like that. It has a very reasonable low goal. I Light novels, I still don't know what a light novel is. It's an anime term in my mind, because isn't that like when you write an anime book, it's a light novel? But I have no idea what a light novel is, and I don't know if everybody does, and I've just been missing out. More than a decade ago, a high school girl dreamed up a story based on her own experiences going to shows and getting to know the musicians there. This is another book where it is just sort of framed as, I wrote this book. I came up with this book idea when I was in high school. Can you imagine that? Yes. Basically everybody who's a writer probably was starting writing in high school. Or, as a child, but when you start taking it seriously, it's probably when you're a teenager, which is about high school, because 14 to 18 are very important years where you start to really develop your personality. Everybody has come up with book ideas when they were in high school, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be impressed. So, she finally finished the manuscript. It's in the final stages before publishing. This one has a pitch. This is definitely not the worst one, but it's definitely still missing a lot of information. My body's killing me. What's up? Still the Stars, book 1 of a queer YA space fantasy novel in verse series. Like the other one, this doesn't interest me at all, but I think it's well done. Mostly. So this one here, this is a good example of something you can do if you don't have a cover or you don't have, any sort of graphical editing skills. This is just a mood board. It's a YA space fantasy novel in verse where the interdimensional adventures of a woman meet the lyrical stylings of a different woman. Again, mentioning two different, I assume, authors. I feel like I know her. I think she probably wrote A Wrinkle in Time. And that gives you a really good idea of what it's probably going to be like. Plot summary. There's a normal girl. She has a problem. More problems happen. This also gives some fan fiction kind of tropes here, which a lot of people read fan fiction, especially in the YA market. Like slow burn friends to lovers are fanfic terms at heart that they apply to all fiction. And that's great. It lets people know. Found family of diverse characters. And it's the first book in a trilogy. Lovely. The journey, I've already criticized this a lot. I don't care that you were 13 and you came up with a fantasy place in your head. That's basically what everybody does. But, good for you. Budget breakdown. This is I think you'll notice almost the first one that has a comprehensive, proper budget breakdown, which is really telling about how people approach Kickstarter, especially Kickstarter books. And I really appreciate it, though. I think this budget breakdown is a bit extremely weird, but we all have different opinions. So most of the budget of this is actually going to make an LLC. In fact, 42% of the budget is setting up an LLC. Also getting the book edited and designed. The budget for this is $20,000, which is definitely quite steep, and that's going to be why this isn't going to get funded. Yeah, so that was 800 years. That was absolutely 800 years of me rambling about very little, and I ended up giving a lot more advice than I thought, because I feel like a lot of people just approach it I don't know what they're thinking. They seem to think that, the hard work that it takes to actually make a book is going to be rewarded. Just, I don't know, people on the internet are going to be like, wow, you worked really hard, I'm going to give you money. And the truth is that that's not what people do, and that's why the majority of book Kickstarters are just not ever funded. But this is mostly just me testing out the idea of talking to a camera like this and how I feel about it, and also the process of editing. So for that sake, great experiment. Top tier. Yeah.